The Shetland Islands, a cluster of desolate outcrops adrift in the North Atlantic, are renowned for their rugged beauty and haunting tales that whisper through the howling winds. Among the stories whispered in hushed tones by islanders, none were as chilling as the tale of Magnus Haldane, a man whose life took a sinister twist after he stumbled upon a washed-up corpse on a remote, barren isle. It was a dreary morning, the sky a seamless expanse of gray, as Magnus set out on his small fishing boat from the village of Sandwich. The smell of salt and the cries of seagulls accompanied him as he navigated the icy waters. He was a solitary man, accustomed to the solitude of the sea, seeking refuge from a world that had grown increasingly cold and distant. As the boat glided through the waves, Magnus caught a glimpse of an island he had never seen before. A dark, foreboding silhouette against the mist, it beckoned to him like a siren's call. Driven by a mixture of curiosity and restlessness, Magnus decided to dock his boat on the unknown island. It was a place untouched by time, where the relentless sea had sculpted the rocky shore into jagged cliffs and hidden coves. With every step he took, the sense of isolation deepened, the silence so profound that even the crashing waves seemed muted. And then he saw it, a grotesque sight that would forever haunt his dreams. Lying half-buried in the sand was a bloated, waterlogged corpse of a fisherman, his eyes wide open as if in perpetual horror. The stench of decay mingled with the sea air, assaulting Magnus's senses. He felt a mixture of revulsion and pity, wondering what tragedy had befallen this unfortunate soul. Yet his eyes were drawn to the man's boots, sturdy leather, well-worn but intact. It was an odd thing to focus on amidst such horror, but Magnus found himself compelled to take them. As he sailed back to Sandwich, those boots lay in the boat beside him, a grim reminder of the island's grisly secret. Magnus tried to shake off the feeling of unease that had settled over him, but he couldn't escape the sensation that he had trespassed into a realm beyond his understanding. That night, as he lay in his simple cottage, the wind outside howled like a tormented spirit, and a sense of dread gnawed at his thoughts. In the days that followed, Magnus felt an ever-present weight on his shoulders. He wore the dead fisherman's boots, and with each step he seemed to carry the burden of a life cut short. Sleep eluded him, replaced by nightmares of the corpse on the shore, its lifeless eyes locked on his. Shadows danced on his walls, and strange sounds echoed through his cottage, whispers that seemed to come from the very walls themselves. He couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched, that the fisherman's soul was trapped within those boots, forever bound to him. As weeks turned into months, Magnus's sanity began to fray. His once steady hands trembled, his eyes haunted by the terror of that fateful discovery. He became a recluse, avoiding the curious gazes of his fellow villagers, fearing that they would see the darkness that had taken root within him. He would often wander to the shore, staring out at the unforgiving sea, hoping to find solace in the vastness of the ocean. But instead, he found only the echoes of the fisherman's final, desperate cries. One stormy night, as the rain lashed against his windows and the wind howled like a banshee, Magnus heard a sound that froze his blood, the unmistakable sound of footsteps. Footsteps that came from nowhere, echoing through the empty halls of his cottage. He clutched his head, his heart racing, as the spectral sounds grew louder, closer. And then he saw it, a figure shrouded in mist standing at the foot of his bed. It was the fisherman, his eyes empty voids, his face twisted in anguish. The boots Magnus had taken were now firmly planted on the apparition's feet, and they seemed to be dragging him down into the depths of despair. The fisherman's voice, a hollow whisper, filled the air, recounting the tale of his tragic end. Lost at sea, betrayed by treacherous currents, his spirit forever bound to the island that had stolen his life. Magnus tried to scream, to flee, but his voice was a mere whisper, lost in the wind. He felt a frigid touch, like icy tendrils, wrap around his throat, choking the life from him. He gasped for air, his vision swimming as the fisherman's vengeful gaze bore into his very soul. It was in that moment of terror that Magnus realized the truth. He was no longer just haunted by the fisherman. He had become a vessel for his torment, a pawn in a spectral game of suffering. The following morning, the villagers of Sandwick discovered Magnus's lifeless body, his eyes wide open, a look of abject horror frozen on his face. And beside him, the fisherman's boots, a chilling reminder of the price he had paid for his curiosity and the darkness he had unwittingly invited into his life.